sit up here and listen. Currently, I'm the vice president for the Wyoming Engineering and Surveying Society. I'm fourth generation cattle rancher from the state of Wyoming. I graduated from the University of Wyoming 3 different times. My favorite story is I've got the 14th alumni plate from Fremont County, and my little brother explained to his daughter, she said, well, I know the 10 means Fremont County, means land. What does the 14 mean? And he told his daughter that was how many years I actually went to college. We're really excited about this convention, and we've changed it up a little bit. We had 2 just outstanding talks that came in for our speakers, and so this year we decided we'd have 2 instead of 1 keynote speaker. And so you guys, this is a bonus. We get to listen to about the Sentinel program from Colonel James Rodriguez, and I'd like to invite him up. I've got notes and I can talk about him, but I think he's going to do a better job than I am standing up here.
All right, thank you. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm not a 4th generation cattle rancher, but I did grow up in Colorado, so I know what it's like to be in a rectangular state. That's all I got. No, actually, in all honesty, though, I am really happy to be here, and the Sentinel program is something that I'm sure will influence you in the future if you live in the state of Wyoming and you're an engineer or a surveyor. So hopefully this is beneficial for all of you. Just because I like audience participation a little bit, raise your hand if you're familiar with, if you know what the Sentinel program is. All right, so it's about half, so that's good. So we're going to hopefully give you guys an overview today so that you'll leave here at least knowing what the program is, understanding how big and complex it is, and how you can contribute in the future. So just again, by way of introduction of myself, Colonel James Rodriguez. So I'm actually at Hill Air Force Base, just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. And the senior material leader, which is a really title that probably doesn't mean anything to anybody outside of the Air Force, and that's fine. But my role really is that I oversee the infrastructure and deployment of the Sentinel weapon system, which is only about half of the program, but it does constitute a very large portion of the portfolio. It's about $68 billion of execution over the course of 10 plus years. So it's a very large program, and I am excited to be a part of it. There's my interest line. So, what is Sentinel, right? So, many of you that are in the room are probably familiar with the ICBM mission at FE1 here. But what you might not know, depending on your path, you may not know that that's actually only about 1/3 of the ICBM mission across the U.S. We have 3 wings across the United States that perform the exact same mission. One here at FE Warren, one at Malmstrom Air Force Base outside of Great Falls, Montana, and Minot Air Force Base just outside of, actually in Minot, North Dakota. And then of course the acquisition, the development, the sustainment, all of those activities then happen at Hill Air Force Base in Salt Lake City, Utah. So really 4 primary bases that kind of execute the ICBM mission day in and day out. And then we'll also talk a little bit about Vandenberg Space Force Base and what they do for us from a test perspective. But to step back a little bit first, I'm actually going to talk about the nuclear triad, because you've probably heard about ICBMs, but it's also important to understand that the ICBMs are only a portion of the nuclear triad that the United States has, and that provides strategic deterrence for the United States every single day. So ICBMs, of course, I just talked about Malmstrom, Minot, and FE Warren Air Force bases, and those consist of 450 missile silos spread across those 3 states. But we also have a fleet of nuclear-capable ICBM submarines, the Ohio class of submarines, that are based out of Kings Bay, Georgia, and Bangor, Washington. And so those Ohio-class submarines are on patrol 24/7. There is at least 2 submarines on patrol somewhere in the world every single day of the year. And the advantage that the reason why we have a nuclear triad is that each of the pieces of the nuclear triad have a unique mission and a unique attribute that contributes to the strategic deterrence that we have. So ICBMs, I said that there's one on patrol in the Pacific and in the Atlantic at 24/7, 365, but you note I didn't tell you where, and that's intentional, because A, I don't know where, but B, even if I did know where, I wouldn't be able to tell you. We keep that a secret intentionally, and that is a very highly secretive mission, because those submarines are meant to be survival. In the case of catastrophic nuclear war, which is something that none of us, of course, want, the submarines are designed to be there throughout and to be able to provide a counterattack regardless, because they are hidden, they are secret, and they would then be able to emerge and perform that mission. The second part is the airborne leg, which consists of our nuclear-capable bombers. So back to the Air Force now, we have a fleet of B-1, B-2, and B-52 bombers that are all capable of carrying nuclear-equipped weapons. And the attribute that those provide to the United States is flexibility. When the president needs to deter an adversary, unfortunately this is not something that has happened in decades, we can certainly have a nuclear-equipped bomber take off. And the advantage of a bomber is that I can take that, I can send that bomber out, and he can fly for hours and hours and hours towards whatever adversary we want. And that in and of itself is a deterrent, because now the bad guy, the adversary, they're getting scared. But I haven't committed anything that I can't recall. And so the flexibility that the air-launched leg has is that I can recall them. So hopefully that motivates them to return to negotiating tables or to perform whatever action that we want our adversaries to do, and then I call those bombers back, no harm, no foul. So that's that second attribute in the second leg. The third leg then is the ICBMs. And the ICBMs, the attribute that they provide is responsiveness. Similar to the submarines, but even more responsive in that we have missileers that are sitting on alert 24/7, 365, and all across all 3 of those states, performing their mission every single day. And if the president requires the use of an ICBM, he has a nuclear football, the guy that follows him around with the briefcase, pull out the nuclear codes, and that mission can be activated very, very quickly and responsive. The other advantage that the ICBMs provide is that since there are 450 missile silos spread across these 5 states, it makes it a very, very complicated problem for an adversary, especially an adversary that is a peer, like a China or a Russia. But if they wanted to take out our nuclear-equipped fleet, they could take out Kings Bay, Georgia pretty easily. They could take out Bangor, Washington pretty easily, because that's a single site. It's really hard to take out 450 missile silos. That's a very, very complicated problem, and so that provides that deterrent value that we want in the Air Force that prevents nuclear war from happening. So that's what the nuclear triad is all about. What about Sentinel? So right now, the land-based leg of the triad is 450 Minuteman III silos. Those silos have been in the ground, or those missiles, Minuteman III missiles, have been in the ground since 1961. That's when they were first deployed. So the system's over 60 years old. And as you can imagine, with any 60-year-old system, it is still very analog. It is still very, it is challenging to repair. It is still very effective today, but it has a lot of challenges and because of those challenges, it's very costly to maintain. So the Air Force is completely replacing the system. This is a once in every other generation program. Like I mentioned, 60+ years, and we have not replaced them. So that's what Sentinel is designed to do, is to completely replace that program. It is a huge program. A lot of Air Force leadership has described it as the largest public works program that the United States has done since the highway system was put in place. I have not been able to think of or find another project that I would say compares to the scale and complexity of this program. Just as some examples of why it's so big. Largest real estate action that the DoD has accomplished in decades. The slide says 4,500 parcels. We're actually contemplating some changes to the missile fields that could significantly increase that to probably more like 10,000 parcels of land. The largest NEPA activity, Environmental Protection Act activity, ever accomplished by the United States. Over 6,000 miles of environmental assessments that were required. Largest sustained military movement in history. Well, what do I mean by that? So when we deploy this weapon system into the field, just as an example, and I'll talk a little bit about this on the next chart too, there are 450 missile silos. So let's just say, for example, that I wanted to start construction of those 1 per week. If I do 1 per week times 52 weeks, that's 9 years of deployment activity. And every single deployment activity, I'm having to move missiles. I'm having to have construction sites, move to and from construction sites. It's a massive military movement that is required in order to deploy the system. And a very large program office. We actually have about almost 1,700 people now. It's grown from a very small team initially to over 1,700 people over the course of the last 5 years. So I'm going to talk a lot about the infrastructure pieces of it today, but you should know that it's not just infrastructure. It's not just missile silos. It is a complete system replacement. So there's a whole segment of the program outside of my purview that is developing a new missile, as well as the command and launch, all of the software and coding and servers and things like that to actually make all that communication happen, all the way from the president to the missile silo. So a couple kind of mind-boggling numbers to kind of, again, give you a little bit of a taste of the scale and scope. Total system weapon system replacement, which I talked about. Billions of system designs have been analyzed through the use of digital engineering, and we've been able to kind of really optimize what that system is going to be. Complete replacement of the air vehicle, the missile, complete replacement of the missile, the command and control, and all new launch facilities and launch centers. So I mentioned already about the conversion rate of 1 launch facility per week. If that's the pace that we're able to do them at, it's 9 years. It's a very long term. But it's not just launch facilities. We also have launch centers. Right now, each wing has 15, we call them missile alert facilities for Minuteman III. Because of technology advances and because of increased computations and workload, we're actually planning on reducing that. So each of the 3 wings will only have 8 launch centers to replace those missile alert facilities. But again, so that's kind of the hard construction stuff. But then there's also the buildings and stuff. But then there's also 1,500 plus miles per wing of utility corridors. Right now we have copper cabling. Yes, copper cabling that has been, and it's been in the ground for 60 years. It carries all those command signals to it. We're replacing all of that with fiber optics. Over 1,500 miles per wing, so total it's about 5,200 miles. Over 7,000 miles of roads and associated bridges. And oh, by the way, there's this little complicating factor that while I'm doing all of this, I can't shut down the missile field. And I have to keep 400 missiles on alert to meet STRATCOM's requirements, because this is a mission that happens every single day without fail and cannot fail. So it's a massively complex problem. You see some of the magnitude numbers there as far as the tons of steel, amount of concrete. But the other challenge that we really see with this is that these missile fields are huge. As you guys know, for F.E. Warren here, the missile field is spread across hundreds and thousands of square miles. In fact, the missile field here for F.E. Warren itself is larger than the state of Vermont. The missile field for Minot is larger than the state of Connecticut, and the missile field for Malmstrom, that one's actually the largest, it's the most spread out, is larger than the state of Maryland. So having to coordinate all of those activities and construction activities and missile movements and things like that across literal states, hopefully this gives you a little bit of a sense of the magnitude and complexity of the challenge that Sentinel is trying to accomplish. Just a similar way to kind of depict a little bit, I've spent a lot of time talking about launch facilities and utility corridors that connect them all, but it's also buildings. And across all of these bases, we are building brand new buildings that incorporate new operational buildings, new maintenance buildings, new missile handling buildings, and all of the associated depot facilities to refurbish missiles, as well as the labs and test facilities that we need to make sure that the system operates not just in development, but for the next 40, 50, 60, who knows how long, many years. We can't do it alone though. Because of the magnitude of this program and how many tentacles it has stretched across all of the states, we have to work with a multitude of external stakeholders and mission partners. So just a small list here, you see some of those. A couple of the ones that I'll kind of point out that are unique and perhaps you weren't thinking about, but perhaps the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So a lot of these utility corridors actually go across tribal lands. So we do interact with the Bureau of Indian Affairs as well as 56 tribal governments. In fact, in 2 weeks, I'll actually be in Estes Park, Colorado for the annual programmatic agreement, meeting with the tribes to kind of understand what their concerns are and how we can hopefully mitigate those as the Air Force. And of course, the big mission partners that we have are the Army Corps of Engineers and the Air Force Civil Engineers Center. So the Army Corps of Engineers, of course, is responsible for building tons of construction projects across both the DoD and the U.S. government. They are a very pivotal mission partner for us in being able to help award contracts and oversee those projects moving forward. So where do we stand today? Right, so Sentinel is underway today. And you may have read in the news that Sentinel has had some challenges over the past year or so. I'll talk about those here at the end of the chart. But from an infrastructure project perspective, a lot of the program is underway and happening today. So that consists of really a mix of a lot of different things here. So traditional MILCON, I mentioned all those buildings that are happening that are going to be built in support of the Sentinel program. Just as a couple examples, right here at FE1 today, we have 2 buildings that are being constructed right now. The Integrated Command Center and the Missile Handling Complex. But there are a total of 6 additional buildings that are either nearing solicitation or in the planning phases right now for FE1. We have 3 buildings at Hill that one of them actually was just completed, and 2 others are under construction at Hill Air Force Base. And then at Vandenberg Space Force Base, we have 2 buildings that are currently under construction, 2 that are actually very, very close to being sent out for solicitation. And then at Malmstrom and Minot, all of those buildings are still in planning. But similar to FE1, there are a half a dozen or more buildings at both Malmstrom and Minot Air Force Base. Surveying, permitting, and environmental compliance. These are activities that are happening today, and I'm sure some of you in this room maybe even participate in some of these activities. But I mentioned again the scope and of each of those activities. Just a couple of examples. So just in 2024, from a surveying perspective, our contractor team, surveyed over 2,000 parcels of land here in the FE1 missile fields, working with over 1,000 landowners to do that. We have, from a survey, a NEPA perspective, an environmental perspective, surveyed 25,000 acres from a biological and cultural perspective. We've also been working on, I mentioned those copper cables that are connecting all of the launch facilities and launch centers today. They've been in the ground for 60 years. So if we're going to go ahead and replace them, we actually need to understand precisely where they are. So just this year, we surveyed 729 miles in the FE1 missile field to do kind of a line locate project and really understand where they are. Had really a lot of success on that. We've actually located 99.5% of those lines to within 6 inches. So that's pretty awesome. And then finally, the last thing from an aerial surveying perspective, we've been doing a lot of LiDAR and using LiDAR and hyperspectral tools have surveyed about 7,100 square kilometers of land. So a huge amount of surveying that's happening, both from an environmental perspective, but also just in understanding kind of what the conditions are. Real estate acquisition. This is, again, one of the largest real estate acquisition programs that the DoD has. And we're not actually purchasing land outright, but we're purchasing easements. We're either purchasing construction easements, or in some cases, actual permanent easements. But again, the scope, FE1 here, 1,800 miles that consists of 2,700 unique parcels. Malmstrom, 2,100 miles of utility corridors. And that one is actually 4,500 parcels. But again, I mentioned that we were investigating some changes to the missile field design that could potentially add another 3,000 parcels. So perhaps 7,000 something parcels of land that we would need to acquire for in the Montana area. And then again, the launch facility and launch centers. Those activities actually are really the biggest challenge that we're facing right now. So back in 2024, the program declared a cost breach. And that's a congressional action that's required for DoD programs when you experience cost growth. And so the Air Force had experienced a lot of cost growth attributed to the launch facilities and the launch centers. The complexity of the construction of those, driven by a lot of requirements, factors, and uncertainty, ballooned the costs of those to a point where the Air Force had to relook at the program. And so we're actually taking a pause. We've actually basically stopped all of the work that we were doing to design those launch facilities, and we've taken a step back, and we're relooking at new construction techniques and methodologies that would enable us to reduce the cost on those substantially. So that's activity that we're doing right now, so it's really hard to share kind of what the path is right now on those. We're not actively working those right now, other than trying to understand, how do we get to a new design. But there is no construction activity on those ongoing. So it's really hard to predict when that activity will happen. But we're kind of projecting, end of this decade, probably the 2029 timeframe is when we'll start that active construction. And again, as I mentioned, one a week, every week, starting for 9 years. So it's a huge construction project. So that's where we're at, and then ultimately, what that redesign of the launch facilities and launch center does is it allows us to get back to a milestone that we call milestone B. When the program had that cost breach, again, we had to take a step back, and we'll reset all of our acquisition baselines and planning here, hopefully within the next 2 years. But we do hope to kind of get approval for the path forward this summer. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. It makes it hard to talk about. But anyway, that's my last chart. And at this point, certainly have a couple minutes. I think we probably maybe have about 5 minutes or so for some questions. If anybody has any, we have a mic here. If anybody has any questions. If not, I will stick around for a few minutes if you don't want to ask a question in front of the group. I'll be around for another probably hour or so. Happy, come find me. You can probably find me. I think I stick out a little bit in here. But happy to talk with anybody that would like to.
We'll get him.
Any questions?
Are the same munitions from 1960s still being utilized next to the new deployment facility?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you, so I'll ask you.
Sorry, are the same munitions that are from the 1960s on the original build, are those still going to be reused, or do you have new munitions?
Yeah, so the actual nuclear warhead is those are actually managed by the Department of Energy, not the Department of Defense. And the answer is a little bit of yes and no. As we start the deployment of Minuteman, it will have the same munitions that are on the Minuteman 3 right now, the same warheads. But there is a plan to transition those in the future. Fortunately, plutonium, the half-life of plutonium is something like thousands of years. So from a nuclear weapon perspective, they tend to last a long time. But there are certainly components in the nuclear operation, and so the Department of Energy is working on that.
I have a couple of questions. One, why Hill Air Force Base as the strategic mechanism for the whole system? And two, on those, for all the silos, are they gonna repurpose those existing silos, or are they gonna put in new silos?
Yeah, those are really good questions. So Hill Air Force Base was chosen largely because it is currently the place where sustainment activities for Minuteman III has. So right now, today, when ICBMs need to be refurbished, or if the propulsion, the propellant needs to be replaced, that activity is all done at Hill Air Force Base. Since we haven't developed a new ICBM in 60 years, there really was no place that was a center of excellence for the development piece of it. So it was really kind of the sustainment side of things that kind of drove that decision to Hill Air Force Base. Felt like that was the place that had the most requisite knowledge. And then the second question about reusing. So that's actually a really great question. When the program was stood up, and that was part of the issue with the cost breach, is that the initial program, as it was structured, was to actually reuse the current Minuteman III silos and completely gut them and refurbish them and then install them. We've actually gone away from that just recently, and we will be constructing new silos for a number of different reasons. One is that as we've started doing that at Vandenberg Space Force Base, we've been refurbishing a test silo out there. We ran into a lot of challenges and realized that that was a lot more complex and expensive than we thought it was going to be. And then two, we're also just kind of, since we are using new silos, it also kind of gives us the opportunity to optimize the silo size for the missile. Good question. Yeah, right next to you.
What can you say, if anything, about the challenges related to software and systems integration as it relates to security in a project like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can talk about that a little bit. Obviously, not a lot, but as you can imagine, as you're all aware, cyber is a little bit different now than it was in 1960. And so cyber is a huge focus for this program, and just like any new weapon system, I mean, you're talking millions of lines of code and software and things like that. So part of that is why we're looking at things like fiber optic for the utility corridors and trying to make sure that we have the right comms there so that we can accommodate the bandwidth needs that we will need for that. But beyond that, we certainly, I can't say a lot more on that other than that it is a big focus and we're looking at it. There are some inherent advantages of using 60-year-old copper because nobody knows how to do analog stuff anymore. So we have to, but that wasn't the right answer moving forward. It is going to be a digital future, so we are making sure that we have those things put together. Maybe time for one more. There's one.
Garrett, I'll ask one.
All right.
Comparing to kind of the first rollout of this program, and I guess maybe you can't tell us much about this, but how is the program working to conceal, if not just physical locations, but other, things that we don't want our adversaries to see, with satellite imagery and different types of aerial surveillance, stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's one that we spend a lot of time thinking about, actually. And there are, since none of this is kind of finalized, I can share a little bit here. But there's actually two sides of that you have to think about. So one, sure, if we're digging a new launch facility, we probably don't want to have our adversaries peering down from a satellite and seeing what we're doing. Or do we? Because if we do, that tells our adversaries that we are actively working to replace this with something better. So there's a little bit of both there, where it's like we actually do want them to see what we're doing because it provides deterrence. It provides that fear that, oh, America's recapitalizing their SBO. They know about anyway, but the fact that we're actually doing it provides value. But we certainly want to protect it from any sensitive things. So we are looking at whether or not we need to put a tent over an LF as we're constructing it to provide it, which would still provide deterrent value because it would show that we're doing something, but they wouldn't be able to see the specifics. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there, where there's value in both hiding, but not hiding all the way. So, great question. Well, hey, again, let me just say thank you for inviting me. Certainly appreciate being here. Hopefully this was informative to you, and like I said, I'll be around. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Okay. All right, up next we have Dr. Kim Wright from the University of Wyoming Engineering and Physical Sciences for an update on what's going on with the folks.
Hello, it's good to be here again. Good to see you all. As Colonel Rodriguez was talking, I'm thinking, yeah, Minuteman 3, 60-year-old system still working. That's me too. Still working so far. My wife might argue a little bit. So these are just some slides to give you a quick update on what's going on at the college, and we'll see if I can get the next slide. So a lot of you know that a reorganization happened 2-3 years ago where we brought in some of the physical sciences and changed the name of the college to the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences. And these are the departments that are now part of the college. So we now have math, and we have physics, we have chemistry, we have geology and geophysics. We also have the School of Computing and the WES, and there's actually a new Engineering Sciences division. What we did there is, engineering sciences, your favorite courses, statics, dynamics, materials, thermodynamics, fluids, all those fun things. So we realized that they weren't getting quite the consistent attention for how they were taught. Sometimes different departments would be asked to teach some of those courses, and sometimes the people who were asked to teach the courses, I can't do that, that's not my area. So now it's more focused, and so now it's a little bit more consistent. So that was a good thing. Just a few little facts about the new college. It used to be, of course, we were in one building for a long time, right? Most of you probably in the one building. And then we had the new building, the ERB, and I came on in this job 6 years ago, and I like to go walk the halls. You go and just walk around and talk to people and see how things are going and all that. And that was doable with 2 buildings. And this reorganization, we're now in 7 buildings. So spread way out, it's a lot harder to walk the halls. So I kind of try to pick a building at some point and try to go and do that. But we're also in charge of the observatory up at the top of Gel Mountain. We have the Red Buttes Observatory, which, by the way, is all robotically controlled. It's really a cool thing. We have the planetarium, the geology museum. We just paid for a huge upgrade for the planetarium. If you haven't been there in a while, you should go back. The new equipment there is just fantastic. When you think about engineers and scientists, you think, well, we tend to approach things a little differently. But actually, we all came together really well, and the organization of those departments is going very smoothly. We've got a lot more interdisciplinary projects going on. It really has worked well. It turns out that the science departments that came over from ASCE are actually getting a lot more attention and more support than they ever had before. So they're actually happy about it. So it's working pretty well. Just a few changes at the dean's office level. We twisted his arm and got Steve Barrett to come back to be an associate dean for undergraduate programs in the college. He also heads up most of our ABET accreditation work. So Steve's right back here. If you haven't seen it yet. We had a change in the associate dean for graduate programs. It had been Dave Bagley, who many of you know. It's now Chip Kovalinki. Dave Bagley is now vice provost up in Old Main, and I hope he survives that. Cindy Jones, we created a new position of assistant dean for student success, and really it was partly because just how good Cindy is. She just does her job so well that I said we really need to elevate what she does and to make sure people understand how important it is of what she does. And Cindy is here. If she's at the table a lot, I don't know if she's in here right now, but if you haven't had a chance to talk to Cindy, please do. She's just wonderful. She and Tyler are here, and they've done a great job to help our students be successful. David Mukai, who was the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs, he's now the H.G. Person Professor, and he is the first head of this new Engineering Science Division. So he's actually not here this semester, he's in Japan on a sabbatical. A little bit of changes in leadership. Mark Clements came back off sabbatical and set back in as department head for geology and geophysics, doing a great job. We have a newly hired department head for the electrical engineering and computer science department, and for those of you who remember it as two different departments, they were merged together and they're working together very well. We poached Ian from Clemson University, and he's been a great hire, wonderful guy. He's doing a great job so far. Just to give you a little idea about some of the promotions and tenure and things, you may or may not know some of these people, but you can see we have tenure and promotion to associate professor. We have some people promoted to full professor. We have some of these fixed term contracts that are on renewed cycles and things. So everybody's doing really well. People are doing their jobs and they're getting promoted. This is a good thing. And the way the budgets work, that's about the only way they get raises. So is to get promoted. On the other side of it, we've had retirements and resignations. So you may know some of these people. Some of them have been around for many years. But you can see we have, in this last year, since the last time we came and gave you an update, there have been 14 people that have either retired or resigned from the university. So let's kind of put that all together. We've also hired 27 people in this last year. You can see assistant professors and lecturers. And if you're unsure, assistant professor is somebody who's on a tenure track who also has a significant research component to their job description. Whereas the next category, lecturers and instructional professors, those are primarily teaching positions. So they don't have to do a lot of research. They don't have to publish a lot of papers. Sometimes they choose to, but they don't have to. It's not part of their job description. And of course, Ian, we hired Ian as a new department head, and we also hired just recently a new professor of practice in the Energy and Petroleum Engineering department. I know everybody in here likes to count, right? So I told you we had 14 retirements or resignations. We had 27 people we hired, so we did make a net gain there. We had a net gain of 13. And this year, right now, we have ongoing 15 searches for faculty members. And that doesn't count another 5 that the president has told us we need to go out and hire more people that are specialized more in AI to try to boost the AI activity on campus. Although if you look at just our college, we have well over a dozen people currently working on AI projects. So this will add to it. In terms of how many people have graduated in different disciplines, this gives you a little bit of idea. And again, I don't expect you to be able to read it all and memorize it. And if any of these numbers or facts come up that you want to say, what was that again? Feel free to email me or contact me. I'll be happy to give you more details. But you can see the different engineering, these are mainly engineering fields here at the BS, MS, and PhD. And then if we flip and look at more of the sciences, you can see the chemistry and geology, math, physics, astronomy, and statistics. We actually have a separate degree in statistics. For totals, 287 BS degrees, 84 MS, 42 PhDs. PhDs are actually up quite a bit. So are MS. And you can see the percentage of females, because we do try to track, how many women we have in the STEM fields. It's been a perennial problem for decades. We're still trying to not just attract them to the STEM fields, but keep them in the STEM fields. So in terms of first-time, full-time new students, so this does not include transfer students. So here's the last few years, you sort of see the trend. A little bit of dip is, it's hard to say how much is related to COVID and the effects. And of course, the COVID it's kind of like a mouse breathing through a snake, right? It's going to trickle through for a few years. You're going to see the effects of that. And this shows you for a bachelor's degree production, and then master's and PhDs. You can see the graduate degrees popped up. Now, about half of that increase is probably due to the fact that the science departments came in. Right? So you can't say that we all of a sudden are graduating more PhDs in engineering, for example, but it has gone up. Now, when these people do graduate and they get their degrees and they start looking for jobs, which is something a lot of you are interested interested in, you know, you'd like to hire a lot of these people, where do they go? So this is a nice chart that Tyler helped put together here, that how many people have gotten jobs in Wyoming. 40% of those graduates stayed in Wyoming, which is better. That number is increasing as we go. It's something we're working on, trying to get more people to stay in Wyoming. And you can see the percentages of people who responded and what they're doing. And I always go to look to the still looking or not seeking. It's like, do I really want to grow up yet? So, you know, it's hard to say. For whom do they work, right? So here are some of the top employers. And you see there on the right side of the chart, and you see some salary ranges there in the table. Look at the end values there. Not a lot of people answered the survey, so statistically speaking, it's probably not very significant, but you can kind of see the general areas. They're all getting pretty good paying jobs. So I just wanted to give you a little reminder about every April when we have the Tau Beta Pi helps us organize the awards banquet for the college, and certain awards are given. And for example, Hall of Fame, Distinguished Engineer or Scientist, Distinguished Service Award. Those awards are chosen by an external awards and recognition committee that's made up mainly of people who have won in the past, and there's one college rep on that. And they go through quite a vetting process. And then we have some other awards that are chosen by students of the Tau Beta Pi chapter, like Outstanding Engineer Alumnus, Wyoming Eminent Engineer. I give you that context just because the next few slides show you who won and who got these awards last April. I can't tell you who's going to get them this April, even though I know. But if you want to come, feel free to come. So we have lots of awards. Certainly outstanding freshmen, sophomore, and juniors, they get awards. The list is very long, so I couldn't really put this on a slide. You can see who got so JEPS, that's the Joint Engineering and Physical Sciences Council. We had to change the name of it when we reorganized. The WES Student Engineer of the Year last year was Hannah Hood. Tau Beta Pi Outstanding Member, CEPS Outstanding Undergraduate. I should say that I try to get people to when they say the acronym, to say CEPS instead of CEPS. To me, that's a little too much like sepsis. So I try to say CEPS. Sandy Hanks Outstanding Graduate Research and Teaching Award, Tau Beta Pi Outstanding Staff Award, and CEPS Outstanding Staff Award. All great people, very deserving. Some of the other awards, Wyoming Eminent Engineer or Scientist, many of you probably know Vince Garcia, so he won that award. Gene Humphrey won the Alumnus Eminent Engineer Award. Bill Lapsley won the CEPS Distinguished Engineer Award. We had a Hall of Fame Award for Andy Krieger, another Hall of Fame Award for Kim Krieger. Fantastic, both of them fantastic. And most of you know, Pat Terrell also won a Hall of Fame Award last year. And I think probably everybody in this room probably knows Pat Terrell, longest serving state engineer in the history of Wyoming. And unfortunately, Pat is no longer with us. So the timing of the award was really great because he was just thrilled. And that was just before his diagnosis. And I don't know, very sad to see Pat go. Wonderful guy. But what's the state of the college today? Really finally seeing a turnaround as we were able to hire more than we were losing, and we're starting to grow back really kind of to where we were and get enough teaching capacity so that we can have lots of options for our students and various kinds of electives that they can choose from. The new departments are integrated pretty well. This new legislature, it's hard to know where this is going to land. They certainly are asking more questions about, what do we get for our money that we invest in the University of Wyoming? And that's not an unreasonable question to ask. But I just hope that they are appreciative of what our college brings to the state of Wyoming. Students are still graduating, getting great jobs, and we're pretty hopeful that we'll keep the slope positive. That's all I have for you. I can answer any questions if you have any, or feel free to contact me later. I'll turn this back over to Bryce.
We got 30 solid minutes to do awards.
CEPS like college, I think I can remember that one. Must be the convention of acronyms. That's the second one we've clarified this week. All right, up next, kind of I think the heart of this luncheon, talking about our scholarships and awards for 2024. First, we'll kind of go through, talk about the different scholarships and awards that we have for our students, then kind of roll into projects, Engineer of the Year Award, and some other recognitions. So we kind of touched on it before, about $30,000 this year in awards. In terms of scholarships, looking at $17,500. Those three different categories there. So we'll talk about our scholarships first. In terms of the students, if you would please rise when I'm talking about you, so that we can see you if you're here, that would be great. And then at the end, I'll ask kind of that y'all come up as a group, and we'd really love to get some pictures for you guys in front of the banner over here. So up first, we've got our Past Presidents Scholarship Award winner. That's Kayla Ketterling. There she is there, hometown China. Out of the civil engineering department, she's been helping us out as a moderator the last couple of years. And her dream job is to be a process engineer for water and wastewater treatment, specifically working on water reuse and international projects. When she told me that, I actually told her that would be my dream job too. So once my kids are grown and out of the house, I'll be looking for you. You can hire me. And then fun fact, she pulled the trigger for a rock blast on Box Elder Road outside of Glen Rock. So thank you, Kayla. Okay, up next we have our general scholarship award winners. Luke, I didn't get any information from him, but he's our civil engineering winner there. Next, Taylor LaForce. Do we have Taylor here today? Oh, there she is. All right. So Taylor is also one of our Engineer of the Year candidates, so we'll talk a little more about her later. Next, we have Reagan Merrill. Is Reagan here? There she is. Another one of our moderators. Reagan's dream job to be an engineer within the residential sector while also side gigging as a dog trainer. I have one at home. I'd love for you to meet. She went straight to walking and running as a baby because crawling was too slow for her. You're welcome to Mom and Dad for that one. Let's see. Next we've got Nolan Gerdes. Well, we'll still talk a little bit about Nolan. Nolan's dream job would be to oversee an interdisciplinary team that designs novel infrastructure to combat the ramifications of climate change. And then a fun fact, he tried to climb Denali, the tallest mountain in North America, but got high altitude pulmonary edema high on the mountain. So give Nolan a round of applause. Next, we've got Yesenia Vicencio Delgadillo. Did she make it? No. Okay. Her dream job is to be a structural engineer on residential projects and also have time to coach youth basketball. Fun fact about her, she's currently the captain and president of the UW women's rugby team. So, quick round of applause for Yesenia. So for all of our scholarship award winners, please come to the stage and so we can get a picture of you guys and kind of appreciate you as a group. Come on up. Where is our scholarship? Come on, Justin, you got to come up here too. You remember the rules from last year? Okay, up next we've got our Carlson Memorial Scholarship Award winners. I should have waited till the end for them to come up. My bad. First we have Jillian Ewing. Is she here today? Okay, so Jillian, her dream job would be to work for herself as an entrepreneur, whether that's in surveying or a different trade, along with being a mom one day. She can whistle like a bird or a chick, so too bad she's not here to show us that. That'd be great. So round of applause for Jillian, please. And then Eli McCumber, Eli, do we have Eli? He would like to be a professional surveyor in Wyoming. Fun fact here. When no shore fishing trips were available, he used a grocery store pole to catch fish in Geiranger, Norway. So that sounds pretty exciting. Round of applause for Eli, please. Okay, next we have our Student Engineer of the Year Award. Just a quick rundown on kind of how that process goes. Each of the programs at the college nominate their top graduating senior. And then our Scholarship and Awards Committee review those nominations, interview the candidates. And then in terms of award, we have one Engineer of the Year Award winner that receives a $4,000 grant. That is different than a scholarship. They get to use it on whatever they want. Getting out of school, if you need to drop a little money on first month rent, we all remember what that pain felt like, so this is a pretty cool thing. And then each of the honorees will receive a $2,000 grant. So again, I'll ask that you guys stand, be recognized, and then at the end we'll kind of come up and do the photos all together. So our first nominee, Colton Faro, hometown Grable, Wyoming, dream job to have own a structural engineering firm somewhere in the Bighorn Basin. And he has a wiener dog. Stand up. Okay, our next nominee, Abigail Gruner, hometown of Casper, Wyoming. Dream job is to be a biomedical engineer. And then a fun fact is throughout middle and high school, she was a biathlete. For those that don't know, that involves Nordic skiing paired with rifle shooting. Round of applause. Up next, we have our civil engineering nominee, Spencer Berzay, hometown Jackson, Wyoming, fair-weather surveyor. I think that means like not only when they're good, but like when the weather's nice. I'm a Bears fan, so I can kind of relate that fair-weather surveyor. Fun fact, he likes raisins and pecans in his oatmeal. Pecans, Up next, we have our Computer Engineering Student Engineer of the Year nominee, Nathaniel Billig. Not here today. He's in the back. All right, I thought I saw him there. Hometown of Johnsburg, Illinois. Dream job is to work as a medical robotics engineer focusing on machine learning control for robotic systems. Fun fact, he's an avid rock climber. Could talk about climbing for hours. Go ahead and give Okay, up next, our electrical student nominee, Taylor LaForce. Hometown, Strasburg, Colorado. Dream job to be a radar engineer in a weather-related field. Fun fact, she loves hockey. Also, maybe flies planes? Is that? Sweet. All right, very good. Thank you. Up next, our mechanical engineering nominee, Ned Murray, from Casper, Wyoming. Dream job work in Wyoming. Make sure you talk to some people in here before you leave. And fun fact, this is born on an airplane. Okay, up next, our petroleum nominee, Peyton Knoll. We have Peyton in the house. hometown, Crossfield, Alberta, Canada, Dream Job Test Pilot, and through the Royal Canadian Air Cadet Program, he was able to earn his glider and private pilot licenses before he was 19. Round of applause for Peyton. Okay, so we have a lot of nominees, all very worthy, but we do have a winner. Our winner this year, some of the activities, you can see why maybe. We had the winner here, the president of ASCE, Tau Beta Pi vice president of projects, Alpha Phi sorority vice president, Irish School of Dance, department social media intern, undergraduate research assistant, Tau Beta Pi, and whoever's paying attention, some of the acronyms up there already tell you who the winner is. So everybody, please put your hands together for Abigail Gruner, our student leader. Nominees, if you'd like to come up too, and we'll do some pictures. Thank you. And that's with Spencer. So if you just want to wait, I'll do it one at a time. Yeah? Come on, Maya, that's what I was saying. Okay. Anybody else want an individual one? No? One individual one? You guys all want to come in? Yeah. Get your checks, guys. Thank you. There we go. Get in there and do this. There you go. There. Babe, that's all. That's good. Okay, up next, we've got our presidential project of the year, and we'll let our chair, Keith Fulton, come up and talk about it.
Thank you, everyone. So, the purpose of the Presidential Project of the Year Award again is to seek and recognize excellence in engineering and surveying projects utilized and benefiting the people of the state of Wyoming. And we do have separate awards for both engineering and surveying. Unfortunately, we only had engineering projects this year. But before we get into the projects, I do want to thank our committee members, Ed, Shelby, Dwayne, Shelley, and Mike. I appreciate your time today to review and score the awards and provide comments back to me. So as mentioned before, and I think Bryce even mentioned this, we're just not seeing a lot of people submitting for this award. So please, we'd love to see more projects because I know there's some great work being done around the state. Oops, sorry. And so, in any feedback, people who have submitted, if there's things that aren't working, it's tough to do, let us know. We're really under construction, as Bryce mentioned, to fix this and get more people involved. So going into our two projects, the first one was the Box Elder Road Reconstruction Project. This was submitted by HDR. The intent was to reconstruct a county road to correct roadway geometry deficiencies and improve safety. The key entities were HDR Engineering as the engineer. Converse County was the owner and funder of the project. Optidal Construction was our prime contractor. Advanced Geotechnical Solutions and Land Survey Incorporated helped with both the design and construction engineering piece. Some of the highlights of the project: 5.2 miles of reconstruction, used both traditional and drone survey. Design was completed fully in 3D, and the county broke ground on this $13.3 million project back in September of 2023 and finished it in October of 2024. Other challenges: they had to work in the mountainous areas, they had grades in excess of 12%, replaced an old timber bridge with a box culvert, had sage grouse timing restrictions when they could work, had to remain open all the times. There must be a timer on this, I apologize. It didn't never do this at my home. Some stream and channel realignment, and then rock blasting. So over 20,000 cubic yards of rock had to be removed during this project. So a lot of hard rock outcroppings. The project location was just south of I-25, south of Glen Rock. Here's some of the drone imagery. Man, this thing's flying. So with the drone imagery, this was used to create their 3D models. On the upper left-hand corner, some of those rock outcroppings that you'll see. Here was some of the blasting. Kayla, was this the one that you gotta blow up?
No, that was mine, but.
It would have been fun. So, here's the post-construction, and you can see where that rock outcropping was removed, some of the roadway geometries adjusted, much safer, nicer road, shoulders, nice paved surface. Here's some of the mountain areas that they had to work through, steep grades of 12% or more, very limited access, place to work. Again, the final product for this. So very good project, so thank you, HDR, for submitting this. Our last project is the Cheyenne Streets US 30 Pershing Boulevard Christensen Road, submitted by WYDOT and AVI, and the intent was to prioritize safety and increase capacity. This project's located east of here, east of in Cheyenne, in an area that had a lot of growth, and so we needed to widen the road. Our entities were WYDOT as the owner, AVI was the designer, City of Cheyenne, Laramie County, and the Board of Public Utilities were also involved in this project. And Ryman Corps and Aztec Construction did a joint venture, both had Cheyenne as their prime contractors. Highlights of this project was widening the entire stretch to a multi-lane highway. So the existing road had started with a divided 2-lane and then tapered into just a 2-lane road, and now it's a divided 2-lane with tapers into a 5-lane roadway. New traffic signal on Whitney Road, which is very busy and dangerous, prior to that, a dangerous intersection. We've had some serious crashes there. Added a new decorative concrete center median to help reduce operating speeds, lower the speed limits, and limit a lot of the dangerous movements and turning movements. Upgraded intersection lighting throughout, and installed a new dedicated pedestrian underpass. This $19.1 million project was awarded to Ryman and Aztec in October of 2023. Contractor did propose a value engineering contract proposal to use cement stabilized subgrade, which eliminated some of the geotextile, reduced the sub-base depths. The project had a planned completion date of June of this year, and everything was done in December of last year. So the contractor really took advantage of some mild winter weather and worked great in cooperation with WYDOT and everyone. And we're very happy that was done much sooner. So a couple of highlights here in the project pictures. This is the divided 2-lane pre and post. And you see the center median was added, a lot of lighting, and then some of the restrictions of now, there's places there you can't make both direction turns, you can only turn in and out. Here's the new pedestrian underpass. In the top picture, you can see just in the very back, there's an old box culvert. You can see that's where the pathway was. So the pathway was down within the channel itself. So if there's any type of rain events, it usually flooded and closed. And so now they designed a new undercrossing that's out of the floodplain and will remain open much longer. Plus it looks pretty nice, in my opinion, as an old bridge guy. Here's the widened 5-lane section, again, adding 2 lanes in each direction with that center turn lane to be much safer and to handle all the traffic out there. And here's our new traffic signal at US 30 Whitney Road. So again, very nice project. Thank you, WYDOT and AVI for submitting that. So before we get into our winners, just quickly plan now. Think about, we'd like to see some more projects. We'll get the guidelines out on the website. One thing we're thinking about is moving up the the submittal date. Right now, it's usually been in January. People are probably working over the holidays, so maybe we're thinking about maybe a little bit earlier in December and get those in earlier. So, again, the 2 categories, engineering and surveying. So getting into our winners, our honorable mention is the US Highway 30 project submitted by WIDOT and ABI. So if we could have representatives from WIDOT and ABI come on up, get your award. Since we only have 2 projects, it's not hard to figure out who the winner is. But our grand prize goes this year to the Box Elder Road Construction Project. Thank you for our 2 entries. Our team really likes to look at these, so please consider submitting again for next year. Thank you.
Okay, up next we have our Outstanding Engineer of the Year Award. For me, when I found out that I had to pick somebody to win this award, it terrified me. So I've been dreading this exact moment for about 3 years now. You know, the longer I sat with it and I saw some other people and how they selected their person, you know, it really came to me that it probably needs to be somebody that means something to me. Personally. Sorry, I didn't know this was going to happen. But I wasn't really sure how to pick that person from a technical merit kind of piece. So I went out for help, and I looked at a couple things. The first is the obligation of the engineer. I mentioned earlier I don't wear my ring on my pinky, but I definitely keep it in my heart. It's something that means something to me, and hopefully something that means something to all of you. And just to remind you what that thing said, from Cliff's Note version, kind of the 3 main topics that I pulled out of it: practice integrity and fair dealing, do your work with tolerance and respect, and always practice in honest enterprises for the public good. And the Outstanding Engineer of the Year this year, I observe these actions through him consistently, both in the profession and in personal life. He recently started his own company, and while I don't design anything, I do review a lot of things. And from when he started in 2021 to where we are today, I see more and more and more plans coming through with his logo on it. And I'm almost assured that it's because he develops real relationships with these people, the way that he handles himself in meetings, and represents both his client as well as the project and what is good for the ultimate outcome of that work. Explains to me a lot why I see return customers for him, public, private, new, all of it. And then the other piece, in terms that I looked at, is kind of what we as WES have laid out, you know, for what the Engineer of the Year should be. And that's dedicated service to the engineering profession, the people of Wyoming, and then the society itself. So in terms of the people of Wyoming, our Engineer of the Year this year has spent 6 years on the Meals on Wheels board, participated for multiple years in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, as well as you see his sponsorships for local community organizations all over the place. And then just from a personal standpoint, he went through something in the recent years that for me could have totally crushed me. But the way that he went through it and handled it with just the most impressive optimism and outlook for the future just speaks a lot to this person. And then finally, I will say, to make it clear that this last moment, which is going to let y'all know who this is, was definitely a cherry on top and not a quid pro quo. Quid pro quo, excuse me. So our Engineer of the Year this year is actually our convention chair, Mr. Chris Levis. Sorts of emotions, sorry. So up next, we have our WES Honorary members. These are provided by our nominations committee. I'll just go ahead and do them in terms of time. Essentially, these are all selected at our past presidents meeting that we held this morning. A lot more does happen in there than what the rumors may say. And it does require unanimous vote, so this is a pretty significant honor to receive this. So this year we have 2 honorary members. The first is Shelby Carlson. Please stand. And then our second is Mr. Josh Fuller. Thank you. ASCE Life members. There are lots of rules in terms of where these go. Unfortunately, we don't have any this year, so we won't go too far into that. So maybe next year. So that'll conclude our luncheon for today. Just a little bit past time. A couple announcements though, real quick. One, I will apologize last night for the misunderstanding around the raffle and the hosted kegs. They were there, they did exist. They were foamy, I don't know, there was issues. But with that being said, there's a lot left. And it will be available tonight. And for those of you who haven't been to our business meeting, when I first came to this conference, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to come to that. I was just some new person who'd never been here. It is open to everybody, and please come. It is not a typical business meeting. It is actually quite fun, so we'd love to see you there. And otherwise, please enjoy your afternoon. Thanks. Oh, sorry, we have one more thing?
Yeah. I wanted to just make a quick announcement.
Sure, come on up, Mike.
Well, thank you, folks. It's fun for us to be here. Started our first conference here in 1988, so 37 years with you guys. Penmanship still does count if you're entering a drawing, so bear with me if I butcher somebody's name. So we got some prizes from our giveaway, stepping stones to Justin Stark, Amy Butler, Russ Dahlgren, Dave Pendleton, coffee cups, stocking cap and knife to John Lee. This is one I traveled with, Jim Lay. Tape measures to Lou Harmon, Matt Goodson, Zach Austin, and Brooks Boulas, I believe it is. We always have a weight guess or some type of guess, and pictures can be a little bit deceiving. We had a high guess of 20,400 pounds, low guess of 1,500 pounds. The structure weighed 6,400 pounds, so it's pretty close. So Amy Butler, you won the $100, so come by and pick up your prizes. If any of you had stepping stones or the boot scrapers from last night, please come by and pick them up. We'll be around until 2:30 or 3 today. And there's a shooting bench over here in our booth. You don't have to take it home with you. And if you live somewhere reasonably, Travis got one year. We will deliver it to you, and they'll auction that sometime at the business meeting tonight. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks all for coming. Enjoy your afternoon.
Will I be able to get the photos?
Do what?
Will I be able to get the photos?
We'll make sure to get them to you.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I say that. It sounded joke.
Oh, I did? I never know.
Take things seriously now?
I mean, my dad's a great conversation starter, and then I never know, like, what's talk about that.
That's awesome.
Hey, thank you very much. Hey, congrats. Yeah. Seriously though, man. Oregon, Wyoming, man. This is the spot. For sure. I'll be spot. I'll be, you know, yeah, good deal.
Hey, thank you guys.